But anyways, family, let's dive into our featured story of the day. Anthony Scaramucci predicts 170,000 per Bitcoin post-halving here in the short term and 400,000 as well, bullish scenario. So I want to break this down for you as we continue our pump, as we're now trading above 43,500, 44,000 incoming. Send it. Let's get it. And welcome everyone just joining the stream. Pump the likes to pump the stream. We appreciate that. Hedge fund veteran Anthony Scaramucci says Bitcoin will skyrocket to 170,000 after the halving. I'm going to be explaining why. But first, I want to read something which I transcribed from an interview in which he shared, which I shared here on X. So he asked the question, what does Bitcoin look like at 1 billion users? And here's what he had to say. I'm going to be very simplistic. A Bitcoin users is roughly 8x more than we are right now. Bitcoin, I actually think we're undervalued and technically oversold here. So I would have thought the Bitcoin would be where we are in terms of users at 50,000. So the intrinsic fair value to me would be about 400,000 per Bitcoin. I'll add 1 billion users because, again, you have fixed supply and you've got less than 21 million coins out there. You and I both know that the mining finishes in the year 2140, but you've also lost coins, which they say could be 6 million, family. In the process of adoption, we probably got 2 to 3 million coins that have been misplaced. They can be in a landfill. They can be on an old BlackBerry or somebody's laptop, like Alex Jones, back from 2010, and as a result of which you probably have about 18 million coins in the universe. These are 48 million millionaires, or there are, on planet Earth, according to JP Morgan. Well, there's only 18 million Bitcoins in existence. You don't even have enough Bitcoin for every millionaire on the planet Earth to earn one coin or to own one coin. So you can't tell me that the scarcity properties of this are not going to drive the prices higher. And he makes a great point there. Not even half the millionaires currently on the planet can become a whole coiner. And we start to factoring in all the lost Bitcoin, which are lost and gone forever. There's very minimal amount of Bitcoin to go around. And now you have game theory in effect where everyone's looking to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. And we're seeing that play out in real time with the Bitcoin ETFs, such as BlackRock, Fidelity, etc. So yeah, Scaramucci believes that Bitcoin could witness a conservative rally of over 300% in the coming months. Keyword, conservative. In an interview with Scott Melker, the hedge fund veteran, says that it would not be out of the ordinary for Bitcoin to skyrocket to 170,000 per coin after its upcoming halving in April, roughly 70 days out, when the miner rewards get cut in half yet again. And according to the Mooch, data shows the Bitcoin tends to print a cycle top that's 4x higher than the halving price. So, quoting him here, you mentioned my 170,000 prediction. That's a data-dependent prediction. Go back and look at Bitcoin's halving cycles. That day that Bitcoin has, multiply it by 4, 18 months later, and it's been uncanny. That's been the price of Bitcoin. I'm using a $35,000 number at the halving, and that's conservative. Let's say we're at 50,000 in April, very probable, by the way. Then it's a 200,000 handle. And let's say we're at 60,000 by the time of the halving, then it'll be 240,000. The Mooch also predicts that in the long term, Bitcoin's price will hover close to $500,000. $500,000 Bitcoin. Send it, as he shares here. My long-term price target is that Bitcoin gets to easily half of the market cap of gold. Gold is now at 14.5 trillion. If Bitcoin goes to 7 or 8 trillion, that's a 10x from here. It's a $400,000 Bitcoin. And I think it would be ridiculous for people not to understand the asset, not to understand the dynamics of it as a store of value, and to not have a position. And to watch the actual interview he did with Scott Melker on his podcast, check the show notes below the video in the description. And let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with Scaramucci that on a conservative bull run for this rally, we can easily tap 170,000? And if we were to hit potentially price discovery levels of 69,000 or 60,000 range, we can climb and do another 10x from here, which would be 400,000 plus per coin. I personally feel, and I've shared my personal thoughts on where I feel the Bitcoin price will likely land for the cycle peak. I think it's most likely on a bearish scenario going to be 222,000. Bullish scenario, I can see 500,000. So right in alignment with what Scaramucci has to share with his bullish thesis, which would be $400,000 per coin. Also, typically every halving, which only occurs every 4 years, we tend to add a 0 to the end of the price action. And if we were to add a 0 to the end of today's price action, then we're discussing a $430,000 Bitcoin price. If we were to hypothetically add a 0 to the height of the previous cycle, which was November 10th of 2021 when we smashed 69,000, then you're discussing a $690,000 Bitcoin price. Anything is possible, unprecedented times. Something major and different from the previous cycle is the institutional FOMO. Clearly, we didn't have ETFs until January of this year, so that didn't exist previous cycle. Who knows how many Bitcoin will BlackRock, Fidelity, and these asset management juggernauts have in their possession by the time of the halving? For Christ's sake, they already have roughly 140,000 Bitcoin within their very first month, just those two asset management giants collectively. So that's pretty big. They could potentially have millions by then. Who knows? Anything is possible. And then when you start to factor in nation state adoption for 2024, 2025, we know more countries are going to be adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender. It's a coming because we know the work that Jan 3 founder Samson Mao has been doing, speaking with governments and political leaders, as well as presidents around the world, including the president of Colombia. That has a pretty massive population, discussing, who knows, Javier Milei could potentially make a Bitcoin a legal tender. I'm not so hopeful, but he's already made some changes for adoption of cryptocurrency in his country to recognize it and for it to be used. And then, Suriname already announced they're looking forward to putting 1% of their central bank reserves into Bitcoin. That's a small country just north of Brazil in South America. We also have talk of potentially Mexico. I know the senator over there, what's her name? Indira Kempis. Correct me, I'm probably saying her name wrong, but Indira Kempis, there we go. She's been discussing this as well with Samson Mao and some others. Then we have places like, besides Colombia and Mexico, Panama, potentially Costa Rica. There's a lot of countries, and we didn't even get into the African countries. We didn't even discuss the Middle Eastern countries. There's now ETF game theory playing out where we have Hong Kong, their first applicant submitted their application for the Bitcoin spot ETF. We also are going to have a Bitcoin spot ETF in El Salvador, which Max has talked about a few times in some tweets, which will be different from all the rest with Bitcoin in and Bitcoin out. And we're not even factoring in the sovereign wealth fund adoption. Qatar is sitting on a $500 billion sovereign wealth fund, and there's rumors they could be looking to convert some of that or all of that into the King crypto. So there's just so many catalysts that we didn't have in the previous cycles to make me believe that it is very realistic to smash some of these targets that we're talking about each and every day on the podcast. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, in the chat. I appreciate it.